Get ready, get set. Ta-da! This is our final video in the Inevitable Success series. How do you help yourself and your students enjoy inevitable success at school and in life? It's our final 2 do's and don'ts. I'm excited to dive in. All right, the tendency is to give up the first time something doesn't work. I see this all the time in the students, especially the younger students who I coach, but I even see it in adult students as well. We want to try something new, but there is an urgency that comes in being a student because the assignments don't stop, the grades don't stop, the semester end isn't here yet. And so we might try a little tweak, we might get a little motivation one day to try something new, or we're working with a coach and we're willing to try something new, but then when it doesn't work, we just don't want to continue, right? It's like, let me just go back to my old secure ways because I gotta deal with the rush of the semester. It's an impulse that I work on all the time with my student clients, and I try to point it out to them, and I try to help them develop the opposite tendency, which is to try things again and again, the wisdom of consistent iteration. Don't stop yet. Don't stop yet. Let's just see, can we try it again the same way? Collect a little bit more data about the situation before we just give up. I see this in the business building too, because it's so vulnerable putting yourself out there as an edupreneur, just like it's so vulnerable putting yourself out there as a student. And we try something, we send our outreach letter. That's one suggestion that I make, and I teach people how to write the letter. And then when we don't hear back from people, if that happens, we just are so dejected and we just give up. Never mind. On to the next strategy. There's always, though, a tweak, something we can iterate, something we can shift just a little bit. And it's a habit that I like to help students develop. First of all, to see how often they want to give up. And secondly, to help them develop the habit of sticking with it, but iterating, shifting a little bit, trying it a slightly different way and a slightly different way until you see what sticks. At the end of the video, I have some empowering questions that you can ask students to help get at this. But first, let us move on to the next tendency. And this is the last tendency I just realized. Oh my goodness. I see people over and over waiting too long to reward yourselves in meaningful ways for your hard work. This looks a little different with students than it does with the edupreneurs who I work with. But with students, it can look like not even knowing how to reward ourselves, or just feeling like, well, shoot, no one's going to be happy with what I do. I just got to move on to the next thing. I can't even celebrate or take in the fact that I had a small success or a large success. I just got to keep going. Again, it's that urgency, that push of the semester keeps us from paying attention to what feels good and giving ourselves more of it. So that's the way it works with students. With the business builders, I see them being willing to do a lot of work for free. Especially a lot of academic coaches come from teaching. And in teaching, we have to do so much work that we don't really get compensated for, right? Way more than the hours of the school day that we're actually compensated for. And so that habit moves into business building. And I am passionate about training the amazing people who come into my program. Y'all are all, you've been teachers for a while, or you've been parents for a while, or you've been insert career here for a while. And this is a second career for you, academic coaching. And you already come in with so much expertise. You do not need to coach for free. You can actually charge for your work. And I know you're probably thinking, yeah, but I'm not good enough yet, or I'm just learning, or this or that or the other thing. Maybe go back and watch this series again. Because a lot of those beliefs I've tackled already. But in this one, I would really like to urge you to not do it for free and to figure out a price that you would be willing to charge, even if it's a discounted price, for your academic coaching services now. You know, earlier in the series, I started telling stories about where I got each of these. I told you the solution, but I didn't show you the solution. So there it is. Don't do it for free. The wisdom, and indeed it is wisdom, of getting paid. Now, earlier in the series, I shared where each of these solutions came from. And I am here to tell you that this particular solution didn't come from another mentor. It just came from me. I'm really lucky that I got to learn on the job. I was hired as an academic coach by an agency. So maybe I'll just say a shout out to Beth Samuelson and Student Organizational Services, who hired and trained me initially. And I got to see how much students need a loving adult. And it helps. As I got better and better at being a coach, that helped. But just having a loving adult, a neutral adult, not parents, not teachers, to work through their academic skills, but also feelings, was so huge. And I got paid from the very beginning for it. And then I got to watch myself get better and better. And so I am passionate at supporting other folks. Also, the people who come to my program often tend to be women, and often tend to be women of color, or a lot of white women, because there are a lot of white women in education, but also a lot of women of color and people of color who also come into the program. And we are the ones, those of us with one or more marginalized identities, that tend to undersell ourselves and our life experience. And don't do that. Don't do that. Charge. Please charge. But back to students. Students, too, they may not be paid for their work, but there are other rewards that they can learn to give themselves or ask their team to give them. And it can be really powerful to explore with every single one of the students you work with, whether you're a classroom teacher or a one-to-one coach, what feels like a reward to you. And that brings us to our empowering questions. So the first one, what reward feels meaningful to you? And what's stopping you from giving yourself that reward, whether you're a student or somebody? What's stopping you from actually charging for your services if you are an academic coach building your business? The other empowering question is, would you be willing to try again? And how many times would you be willing to try before giving up? You can give up if you want. You can even give up now if you want. But would you be willing to try again? And you don't have to try again forever, just for a limited time. So how much time would you be willing to commit to trying again? That is a hugely empowering question. And with that, we're at the end of our series. I haven't gone through all of my pair eyewear glasses though, so I guess I'm gonna have to make a few more videos so that you can see all of the fun shades that I have. So stay tuned for more, and I would love to hear from you. What is your biggest takeaway from this exploration of how to create inevitable success for yourself or your students in school and in life? I would love to know what sticks out. Please post below, and if you haven't liked and subscribed already, if you're not feeling like posting, that would be a nice thing to do as well. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the whole series, and go out there and create inevitable success for yourself. Take care.